Hey guys, welcome back to BJ Tech News, episode 17. This is first part of many that's coming at you guys pretty soon. This is part one of SCCM 2007. Shout out a poll of a question to a couple of my viewers as well as my followers that have been following me in my blog as well as my YouTube channel, and I asked a question about what do you guys want to see next on BJ Tech News. Uh, One of the choices were SCCM 2007, 2012, SCOM, and Citrix Zen server, and I got a whopping landslide of SCCM. Unfortunately, I can't. I'm still waiting to get notification so I could start downloading 2012, and I could do that video. But for now, I'm going to do SCCM 2007. Uh, SCCM is a huge topic. So I'm going to break it down into hopefully 3 to 4 videos. The first video is SCCM installation. I did all the prepping. I did all the installation and stuff. So I'm just going to basically show you guys screenshots of what actually happened step by step. Okay? So the first thing that you want to normally do is when you input the CD, or if you're doing a virtual machine ISO, you want to run the prerequisite checker, right? And once you run this, it runs hardware as well as to see if you have all the necessary requirements to install SCCM. Before I even get into that, the environment is, the way that I have the lab set up is I have a domain controller, which you need a domain controller, a SQL server, and I have an SCCM server. Within the SCCM server, I have the SCCM manager, as well as WSUS, and with my WSUS, the database on that, I actually have the database on WSUS connected to my MySQL database. I basically show you how to do all that stuff and explain all that stuff when I'm explaining it. Okay, so first thing you always want to do, you want to run this checker. Okay, best practices, you run the checker to see what you have to install. A lot of people like to just put the CD in, or mount the ISO on the virtual machine and just start installing. Best practices is, if you have a physical server, you install the operating system, push all the updates that you need to push out. Any updates that security updates, .NET framework, whatever it is, push out all the updates up to the point that your server is basically saying, hey, there's no more updates to be pushed out. Okay, once you do that, you want to run this. Once you run that, you're gonna basically get this. Okay, this third option right here, you don't really need to fill it, but these two you really do need to fill it out. Okay, SCCM have 2 versions to store the database. It's not really, I can't really say there's a best practice, but from my own opinion, my 2 cents, best practice is you want the database to not be in the same machine that the SCCM is actually hosted in. Okay, but you could do that. Okay, you can actually install SQL server on the same machine that's housing SCCM. For this episode, I didn't do that. The database is on another virtual machine, and SCCM is on a separate machine. Okay, so before you enter this information here, you got to make sure that your SQL Server database has the correct account to give you access. For example, like my SCCM server, I created an account on Active Directory and I called it SCCM admin. So the virtual machine that I'm logging into my SCCM, I'm logging into this account. This account I added into the security in my SQL server so I can have access to create databases as well as run databases and run reports. So you got to make sure you have an account within your SQL server that allows you to create a database as well as make a connection to your SQL server. Okay, once you do all that stuff, it's a primary site. I insert my SQL Server database. This is the actual physical name of the SQL Server. You hit OK, and bam. When I first ran it, I got 3 warnings and 1 critical error. The critical error is not that bad. It's something that it depends on. It depends what Windows Server you have. Like I'm actually running Windows Server 2008 Enterprise R2, and that's a built-in, I believe, a built-in feature that you can install that. Schema extension, again, there's 2 options with SCCM, but best practice, they like when you extend the schema. It just functions better and integrates better with SCCM. The WSUS, again, if you guys already have a WSUS server already separate, like you have a physical server that already it's running WSUS, and all your workstations on the floor are attached to your WSUS through a GPO, you're good to go. The .NET update, I'm actually gonna ignore that because apparently I did some research on that, and I needed to have 2.0 .framework installed on the server. It's already installed, so I don't know why I'm receiving this warning. I think the fact that I haven't pushed out all the updates yet for all the .NET stuff, that's probably a problem. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is, the first thing that I did was I extended the AD schema. Now, within the CD, if you go into Setup BIM I386, there's a particular exe file right there, extadsch, which stands for Extend Active Directory Schema. You want to run that as an admin. Once you run that as admin, it's really quick. Okay, it should be fast. But there's a problem. You got to make sure that the account that you're using to extend the Active Directory should be part of this group. If not, trust me, you're going to get an error. When you look at the logs, which I'm going to show you where the logs are actually located, you're going to get a bunch of errors saying that such and such wasn't created or it couldn't extend the schema. Okay, so you got to make sure the account that you are logged into to extend Active Directory has to be part of the schema admins group. Okay. Once you're completed, if you go to the root of the C drive, there's a text file, a log file called Extend Active Directory Schema, and when you open it, you should see this if everything went well. Okay, that right there, that's what you guys should see. Successful extended the Active Directory Schema. If you don't see that, most likely, and you got a bunch of errors, you probably, the account that you're using doesn't have a schema admins access. Okay. Now, the next thing that you do once you extend the schema, you want to open up the ADSI edit feature, which is also part of your administrative tools. You want to open that up, and you want to go into the container system, and you want to create a new container, system management. Okay, system management is, that container is very important with SCCM. It actually contacts as well as communicates with your SCCM for it to be integrated properly with your Active Directory. So you need that container. Once you have that container up and running, you have to give it control. You have to give the SCCM server control to that container. So basically you have to give it deliberate control. So if you right click on the new container that you created, go to delegate control, you get the wizard, you can read all this information if you want. You want to hit next. You want to click add. Now, we're not adding a user or a group, we're actually adding a computer. So when you click the add button, you're going to basically get this. Right here is only going to be, it's going to only see users, groups, and buildings. So if you enter your computer name here, you try to check it, it's going to fail. So you got to try to change the object type. Okay, by default computers is not checked, so you want to check that off. Press OK. right? Put the name of the server of your SCCM server. For me, it was BJ-SCCM. Check name, underline, that means everything was good to go. I pressed OK, and there we go. You want to hit next. At the next, you want to, what task to delegate. Now we're going to create a custom task for this, okay? So you're going to check that off, hit next, and then you want to also make sure that this is checked. This folder, existing objects in this folder, and creation of new objects in this folder. That's what you want. Click next. Now I think by default this and this and this is not checked. I think this is the only one by default is checked, but you should make sure that the property specific creation deletion of specific child objects is checked, and as well as check full controls, and everything down should trickle to checks. Once you complete that, hit next, and that's about it. You hit finish, and that's it. You actually gave delegate control to that container. Now the next warning, actually the next problem that we had when I ran the checker is that the remote differential compression, which it's a feature built into Server 2008. So that's pretty simple. You run this feature, leave all the defaults, run that, and that solves that problem. The next other warning that we received was Windows Server update services. Now, if you guys already have a WSUS server already up and running on your environment, bam, SCCM. Again, if it's already attached, everything's working together. So WSUS automatically is attached to Active Directory, so SCCM should be talking to that WSUS with no problem. For me, I didn't have a WSUS virtual machine running on my environment, so I installed the role on the SCCM machine. Okay, follow all the prompts, get all that stuff up and running. It's actually gonna ask you for a location where you want all your downloads and all your updates to be pushed out. Do all that good stuff. Once you do that, for me, just to double check my WSUS server was running properly, I opened up the console up and everything was running properly. Okay. Now, once you do all that, once you finish all your warnings and errors, and you fix all those problems, now it's time to install. Now, if you have different errors than what I had, if you double click on the warning on the critical error at the bottom of it, it actually tells you a short description, or actually it gives you like a Windows Microsoft link that you could go to, and it provides more information. Sometimes you're lucky and it's stuff that you could download, and you could download it on the spot and install it. So the next thing that I did was, it's time for me to install. I took care of all the warnings and critical stuff. So I hit install. You get this stuff right here. This is basically a task list or a to-do list that you gotta make sure you got everything running. Hit next. By default, you only have these two things up and running. Or these are the only two things that you could choose from up to this point. This option right here is mostly if, let's say you have a bunch of people in your company, and again, SCCM is a huge program. You could install the admin console to your IT department, but then again, on an administrative level, you could have, let's say, AB has access only to the reporting part. BC only has access to packaging and deploying. DE has only access to do reporting and creating images, and as well as deploying images. So the administrative console, when AB launches the administrative console, that's the only portion that they're going to see is reporting or packaging and such. For this episode, we're only going to do this portion right here. We want to install a configuration manager site server, and then we want to hit next. Read all this if you have time. Check it. Hit next. Now, from all the reading that I've done, and again, if you guys have been following me and actually read my page about me, I'm actually studying this SCCM to get certified, and all the books that I've been reading, as well as the studying and the practicing and all that stuff. A lot of the books always do custom settings. So I guess for what I've been reading, is custom setting is like the default, as well as best practice. You hit next once. I think automatically this is checked off by default, so that's automatically next. A primary site. You want to do a primary site. Now, primary site and secondary site. The secondary site is, let's say you already have your primary site in your headquarters. Okay, your office is the headquarters, and your other offices, your other branches from other states are your secondary sites. Okay, so you're considered the parent, and then you install SCCM as a child, as a secondary site into your other branches, which is pretty cool. For this example, this is our first time creating an SCCM site server, so it's going to be this option right here, primary site. Okay, hit next. It's recommended to participate for this, but I won't do it. I just hit no. Your serial number, some CDs, when you put the CDs, this stuff is grayed out and the serial number is already placed inside the box. If not, you probably need to enter the 25 character product key to activate it. Installation path, I left it on the default of C drive. Now, this is the very important part. For all my research and my studying for this test that I'm going to take pretty soon, the site code is very unique, and it cannot be changed. So whatever modifications or whatever you do here, make sure that that's what you want, because once you hit next and you hit next, and you hit install to install what you need to install, that's it. Okay, do a site name description to it. Okay, I basically called mine BTN, BJ Tech News, and I gave it a short description of BJ Tech headquarters site. You got 2 site modes. Okay, depending on how you're going to be managing your computers on your network is which mode you're going to pick. Most common one is mixed mode if you don't want to do a lot of configuration. The native mode, you have to do a little bit more because you have to create a certificate, and the native mode is more internet based client support. Mixed mode, it's more of the safe route. So for this example, I did the mixed mode. By default, everything right here, as you can see, is checked off except this. This feature right here works well if you're running a 2008 server. I'll probably activate this feature and do it one of my other series, part of this SCCM video stuff. Once I left everything as default, didn't check this off. I'll do that later. Hit next. Put your server name here. Okay, once you put your server, this is actually the name of the database that's going to be created in your SQL server. Remember, make sure that the account that you are logged into your SCCM server has access to the SQL server, because if not, it's going to fail and it's going to be a waste of time. Okay, so you're going to hit next. Hit next. This right here, you can leave it as is. This is already done for you, which is the actual name of the SCCM server. This again, you're installing a management point. You want to install a management point. That's what you want to do. If by any chance you're creating a secondary site, there's most likely you don't want to create a management point, because your parent, the parent site is actually your management point. So don't worry about that. Leave this as default, because again, this is our first time installing SCCM. This is our primary site. This is our primary management point, so we're going to leave that as is. Port settings, I left the default in 80. If by any chance you have something else running on 80, most likely like your web server or anything, you want to change that, hey, change it. For me, I left it as is. Check for updates and download newer versions. This is a must to do, okay? Uh, Leave it as this, hit next, and once you hit next, you get this prompt right here where you want to drop it. I dropped it on the C drive. Again, it's not best practice to drop stuff in the C drive where the operating system is living. I did it on the C drive because, again, it's a virtual machine and I don't have a second partition on it, so I just dropped it on the C drive. Once that stuff is completed, you enter the path here, hit next. The time that I did it had 89. Okay, once that stuff is completed, you get this little prompt right here, and then this is how it looks. This is all the stuff that it actually downloaded, which was about 90 items. Okay, so once you complete that, once you do this portion right here, and you hit next and everything is downloaded, you get this right here. This is a summary, setting summary. Now you hit next. When you hit next, what's going to happen, SCCM is going to run the tool again to check if anything else is missing. Now in my case, stuff was missing. Okay, so the stuff is missing again. I got this problem again, but it's only a warning because at the very end when I installed everything, that didn't really affect the SCCM stuff. But these four errors right here, if I don't fix them, there's gonna be problems. So again, you could double click on this stuff right here, double click on it, and it will give you a short description of what's what. So first thing I took care of was the background intelligent transfer server, which is bits, which is pretty simple. Why? Because 2008, it's a feature built in, so it's not something that you could download. It's not like 2003 servers. You needed to actually download bits. Actually, you didn't really need to download bits. It was actually part of the Windows components. But again, it's a feature portion that is a feature portion that you can actually install. Click on it, click next. Keep all the defaults. No really issue settings that you have to do, and that's it. That's for that portion. Now, for I believe for the web dab portion. Okay. Now for the web dab portion, you got to make sure that you have web server install IIS. Okay. You want to have all these features right here, as well as web dab publishing, as well as make sure basic authentication and Windows authentication is installed, and everything right here that says install comes standard when you're installing IIS into the machine. Okay, that takes care of the web dab stuff. When you rerun it again, you get one. I got one warning, and again, it's because of software updates. I haven't pushed out all the updates on the virtual machine, so that's why I got the warning. And then you got that nice little button of begin install. Okay, once you begin install, this is what you will see: a status monitor and monitoring everything that's being installed and configured. Every time something is installed, you get a green check mark here, and I believe it says completed. There you go. So this is what you will see. Everything green, no red, installation is completed. That's always a plus. Now, hit next. And this is the final dialog box that you guys are going to receive. Okay, so you got to either hit finish. Once you hit finish, you got to actually go to start, find the configuration manager folder and double click on it. If not, you can actually check this off, hit finish, and it will automatically launch the console for you. Okay, now if you're wondering what the system manager container was all about, when you finally finish installing SCCM into your environment, if you go back and you refresh that container, you're basically going to see these two entries. If you do see these two entries, that means that you properly gave the delegate rights or control to your SCCM server, and everything is working, everything is integrated properly with Active Directory. The schema extension went great. So that's two thumbs for you if you got this point. Okay? Now, When you open up your console, the first thing that you want to check is you want to go to site status and check if these two guys, your component status and your site system status, is green check marks. In my case, I wasn't as lucky because I had 2 warnings, and the 2 warnings that I received was this SMS MP Control Manager. I tried going into services and actually restarting them, but I kept on getting a communication server error. So I did a little research, and it was due to my WebDAV. WebDAV, you have to do a little bit more configuration for SCCM to work properly. Okay, so you want to do is you want to open up your IIS manager, and once you open up your IIS manager, make sure you highlight the default website and you double click on the WebDAV authoring icon. Right, once you get there, you want to go to the WebDAV settings. Once you get there, okay, you want to go to WebDAV authoring rules. Okay, you want to add a authoring rule. Okay, once you click on this right here, you're gonna get this dialog box. You want to check all content, all users, and you want to give it the read permission. Okay, and the WebDAV settings for that, you want to make sure it's this. By default, it's gonna be, I believe, false, 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 false. But you want to make it true, false, true, and true. So what you're making true, the property behavior, which is you're allowing anonymous property queries, you want that to be true. Allow custom properties, you want that to be false. And as well as you're allowing property queries with infinity depth to true. Also, you're allowing hidden files to be listed true. So you want to make this stuff the way I have it here. Okay, once you do that, you can either reboot your machine, or you go back here, go back into your site server and do a refresh. Right click on this guy right here and do a refresh, and all errors and warnings are gone. Now if you get all greens all the way down, okay, check marks, pat yourself in the back. You did a great job. You install SCCM with no errors, and it's running properly in your environment. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how it looks. Okay, I'm going inside my environment. I created a shortcut. So if you go to Start, go to All Programs, Microsoft System Center, got it here. Just right click and created a desktop shortcut. I want to show you guys my SQL server. Within the SQL server, this is the database right here. SUS database. Again, WSUS comes in 2 versions, 2 flavors I like to call it. When you install WSUS, you can either hook it up into a SQL server database or have it hooked up to a Windows internal database. For this SCCM stuff and the W stuff, I actually had it hooked up to my SQL server. So right here, this is the database of SCCM, and these are all the tables, which we don't really have much yet, because hopefully in part 2 I start showing you guys a little bit more. So this is it. When you start it up, click on that, connect to that. You got your site system. That's the name of the site code that we gave it, short description. Site settings. This is all good stuff that I'm going to be showing you guys little by little in part 2 of this SCCM series. Again, you want to go to site system status, site status, and you want to see that green check mark go all the way down. If you see that green check mark all the way down, that means you did a great job, and 2 thumbs for you. Pat yourself in the back. You actually install SCCM with no problems. So to end this video, I just want to go over with you guys that in part 2 of SCCM, I'm going to be going over the initial setup and configuration. I'm going to be going up how to set up a boundary, setting up boundaries inside your SCCM, configuring client agents, deploying agents, set up discovery methods, Set up client installation methods. Install the client into an actual machine. That's going to be part 2. Again, SCCM is a huge topic, so I have to break it up into parts because I got to make sure everything is working in my end. And if I get errors, write this stuff down, do some research, and then bring it to you guys. I don't want you guys to be like, I don't want to do a video and you guys are seeing everything look all clean and smooth and everything. When you guys try it, it's not smooth. I want to experience what you guys are experiencing, and that's problems. And if I receive the problems, I want to show you the problems, and I want to show you how to resolve them. So that's all about. That's the way I like to do these videos. I hope that you guys enjoy episode 17. Hopefully part 2 should be coming out next week, and I see you then. Thank you.